Again, by Achsaru in the lesson, you've stopped all the sources of where the water was coming from, both from below and from above, and now you're going to continue into the area where the natural order from before, that water seeps its level and water has the ability to seep into the ground and water evaporates. So all of those sources by which water naturally would diminish are going to continue, and they're going to form the new normal, if you will. That's what we're going to go on from there. So again, that's why that word gets a munach, gets that separating out and continuing on concept. Hamayim, the waters, with a katon. This is that two-part note that sits on top of the mem there. Number 8. The mighty quantities of the waters, which have steadily accumulated from all possible sources, could not vanish quickly, even by the enhanced downflow, as pointed to by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So even though we have the ability for things to diminish, it certainly is continuing at a measured pace, not at anything of an accelerated pace. So we have the concept of getting less, but we have the concept of things getting more by a supra and above natural amount. Here we have things getting less, but only getting less by the natural tendency. So that's why we have that two parts to the note. That it's telling us that it's getting less, but it's not getting less miraculously like it got more miraculously. Miktseh, with a zakef gadol. Zakef gadol is a line with the two dots beside it. We haven't come across too many of those. I'm just going to draw one out for us so that we see what a zakef gadol looks like. Zakef gadol looks like that. And it is going to be something that is going to, again, emphasize this word. We're going to sit on this word. And by the way, it's a note that's got many parts to it, so we're going to talk about the multiple parts to it as well. From the end of number 9, nevertheless, it was a beginning when looking from the end of the great flood, because all supplies of water have practically stopped. Miketz, hey. Miktseh. So, what? Why has he separated out the hay? As specified by the components of the reading mark. Note Miketz hay instead of Miketz because of the various contributing factors. So, normally the word would be written miketz, from the end of, and it's been parsed into both a feminine dimension by putting on a hay, but also miktseh also can mean from the outlying part of, from the edges of. So when Joseph brings his brothers in front of Pharaoh, he brings just some of them, miktseh achav, from the edges of his brothers. He brought a few. So this is implying a less than definite end, sort of, an end that's good, that's a little bit fuzzy, an end that's not happening so quickly and definitely, and it's happening from multiple sources. The water from above stopping, the water from below partially stopping, the wind, the natural drainage. So that's why we've added the Kate's hey, we've added from multiple areas that this end is coming from. I can't think of 5 different things that we've mentioned. We've mentioned 4. The water from above stopping, the water from below stopping, but not completely. So that's 2 and 3. The wind and natural drainage. Oh, we did mention 5. Okay, there we go. We got 5. Miketz from the end. Hey, 5. So that's why he separated it out to say that there are these various contributing factors, and our note has that multiple, that 1, 2, 3, so it could be more than 2 factors that are contributing here. So we don't have a note for 3 things and for 4 things and for 5 things and for 6 things and so on. When we've got something that's got more than 2, then we'll see that Zakef Gadol, and it'll tell us that there's more than 2, 3 or more. So we've got 5 that we've identified. The word has that separate number 5. A in mathematics is number 5. We have that separate 5, and we've mentioned our 5 sources of the way that the flood is sort of diminishing in its fuzzy little fashion to an end. Hamishim, 50, with a mercha, slightly connects to what was before, but mostly looks forward into what's going to go after it. There were several essential periods in the resolution of the flood, a stage lasting 50 days, which was not marked by any visible changes, as illustrated by the directional shape of the reading mark. So, again, when we're reading numbers in this perush, we separate out Chamishim Uma'at, 50 and 100, to say that there's a significance to the 50 and a separate significance to the 100, because each of them were afforded a different ta'am mikra. Each of them were afforded a different note, and therefore each of them has a story to tell. So the first 50, this 50 days, you couldn't see anything different in the landscape, in what's gone on in terms of the water. But Ume'at and 100 with the Tipcha, which is going to roll what's come from before it into it. Besides 50 and 100 more days was the time when the flood was firmly established. There was a period of steady organization with decreasing levels, as noted by the closing shape of the directional reading mark. So the water accumulated over 150 days and diminished over 150 days, and it diminished over that last 100 days in a different way than it diminished in the first 50 ways, in that there were steps that were visible. There was the ability to tell what was going on during the 100 days, whereas there wasn't the ability to tell during the 50 days. So that's why the 50 and the 100 get separate notes, because they're telling a different story. First 50 days couldn't tell the difference. Last 100 days could tell the difference. Yom, day, with the Sof Pasuk, which again is going to stabilize the concept. Finally, each additional day was characterized by an appreciative decline. So the days in and of themselves start to get significance again, because there is a difference between day 1 and day 2, in that you can look outside and you can see something different. You can see more features of land and so on. So again, we're gonna emphasize, because we've had a couple of notes here that we haven't struck in a while. We have the Darga Tavir. The Darga, again, is something that's going to go stepwise and is going to tell us of something that's happening in a stepwise fashion. And we have Miktzeh with the Zakef Gadol, which is going to emphasize the word and is going to have multiple things that are going on to it. So listen as we sing it. Vayashuvu hamayim Eyal haaretz haloch vashov vayachseru hamayim miktzeh chamishim u'me'at yom. So you notice that the Darga does have that stepwise quantity, and miktzeh has again that multiple idea that's going on there.
Going down in steps.
Not so much going down in steps, more the fact that there's more than one thing going on. So that's our 3 or more type of a note. It's telling us that lots of things are going on. Fourth pasuk, Genesis 8:4, Vatanach with a mapach. The mapach is going to take what's gone from before and focus it into a point that's going to move forward from there. and it rested. After insignificant turbulence and decrease of the flood level, the ark was lowered and it rested finally on a solid base, as indicated by the shape of the reading mark. So up until this point the ark is floating, and now we're going to get to the point, literally to the point, where the ark now has something solid that's underneath it. So that resting is going to move us forward to a new chapter in the story, to the part of the story where land is now visible and playing a part in the world again. Hateva, the box, with a pashta. Pashta slightly emphasizes the word and looks forward to what's going to go after it. However, during the entire critical period of the flood, the box served its purpose and all inhabitants were adequately taken care of, as denoted by the directional shape of the reading mark. So the teva is going to serve its function and allow us to move forward into what's gone on, and it's going to assume its importance. So that's why it's got a pashta, which slightly emphasizes the word and leads us forward into what's going to come on. So the teva kept them safe and allowed them to move to the next stage. Bachodesh, on the month, with a zakef, with a munach. This is going to separate itself out from what's come before and lead us forward into what's going to go afterwards. On the month when the ark first found itself on a solid foundation, a new era of the world's history began, as stressed by the shape of the reading mark. And again, this is quite clear with what we've said about Emunach, that history before was different and history is going to continue on from here. So separated out from the past, moving forward to Hashavi'i, the seventh, with a katon. Katon is those two dots, so therefore we're going to have two ideas that are going to be expressed in this word. Just as 6 centuries of Noach's life and activities were a preparation for a Sabbath, so the 7th month of the year introduced a period of rest for the ark and its inhabitants, as pointed out by the bipartite shape of the reading mark. So as Noach is entering his 700th year on the planet, the 7th month is going to be when the ark is going to take its rest, and that's our double meaning in the 7th. So that's why we have a katon. And we will see over and over again that 7 seems to correspond with rest, and 7 seems to correspond with completion, and 7
right,
seems.
I never thought of his age. Like I never looked at it. Oh, somebody was thinking of that.
Bishiva Asar, on 17th. So notice before, when we had numbers that had separate notes, Chamishim Ume'at Yom, that we defined the 50 and the 100 there. But here we've got Bishva Asar with 7 and 10, but they only have one reading note on them. Therefore it's read as 17, not 7 and 10. Because there's only one note. So look at the end of the last sentence. Number 10, 50, Chamishim, Ume'at, and 100. Each of those get their own paragraph because they each have their own note. Here, Bishva Asar only has a mercha. So that's why it's read as 17, not 10 and 7.
Is that considered a seek under
Yes.
defining?
So that is something that is going to tell us the syllable of the word that gets its accent.
So it's not considered a separate.
So it's not a reading word. No. So it's a point of emphasis, because when you have words that are joined together, you have to decide how the second word is going to influence the first word. and that's sometimes why you'll need a makaf. You'll need that thing to tell you which syllable gets the accent. Number 5, on 17 days of the month after Noach had completed 6 centuries of his life, 6 months later, a new era had started, as shown by the directional shape of the reading mark.
Who put in the hyphen between Shiva Asar?
That's a peculiarity of this translation. What it's doing is whenever you have 2 words with a single note, he's going to join the 2 words with that hyphen. That's going to tell you that he's going to define them together, even though they're separate words. So that's from this translation. That's not something that you'll find elsewhere. Sorry, we had skipped a comment on the 7th. At present, the 7th month contains most of the holidays, including the New Year of the Jewish chronology, Leminyan, that we count. So the continuation of the world gets celebrated from this point on, and that 7 has an important feature. Number 6, Yom with a tipcha. This closes off the previous thought and looks backwards and has a slight pause after it. That day marked the beginning of the catastrophe as well as the relief, such that both events seem to be related as suggested by the closing shape of the reading mark. Can you pause the tape for a second?